Tonight, wrong way drivers on parts of 5th Street in Tyler, something businesses say they see almost every single day. KLTV7's Suzy Johnson shares why questions are being raised about whether more can be done to prevent these crashes.
Suzy Johnson, owner of New York Pizza and Pasta, has worked near the intersection for the past 4 years. She says it happens constantly, wrong way drivers, especially during evening rush hour.
Happens every day, sometimes 10 times a day.
In the last 5 years, city records show more than 300 crashes on 5th Street were reported, and Broadway and Fifth is one of the hot spots.
There's a lot of accidents that happen right here. We watch multiple accidents, sometimes in one day.
City leaders tell us they adjusted signal timing in the area back in 2022, but crash numbers at Broadway and Fifth continue climbing afterwards. And from January to April of this year, 8 major traffic crashes were reported there. The city also completed a preliminary signage review near 5th and Donnybrook in 2024, but it was never finalized or implemented. Part of the reason? 5th Street falls under TxDOT's jurisdiction.
TxDOT does maintain the pavement and the pavement markings, but as far as the streets that intersect it, so for example, Donnybrook Avenue, that is one that the city is responsible for all the signs, pavement markings associated with that.
TxDOT says it completed pavement markings and signage improvements during a maintenance project last year, but records did not identify additional formal safety study requests or document concerns tied to these intersections. Meanwhile, drivers and businesses say confusion continues.
I'd like to see them put up different signage so that people can actually see it.
TxDOT says it will continue evaluating safety improvements in the area. Nearby Tyler businesses hope clearer signage can help prevent future crashes. Suzy Johnson, KLTV 7 News.
To report a traffic or roadway concern to TxDOT, you can scan the QR code on your screen or head over to our website. We've got it on the big red box for you right there.